I like to scan the weekly questions that we get.
Yeah.
I think the best question this week was, which NHLer would you like to lick you?
Oh, wow.
I'm like, didn't
Find
you just
out-
listen to our island segment? It's probably exactly the same.
Find out why PMAC picked Matt Duchene at the end of the episode.
God damn it.
Oh, we get a lot of shots. Everybody come to their net. We just have to get more and more pucks to their net.
What were you saying about putting pucks on net?
Get pucks on net.
Continue to put pucks on net.
Something about pucks on net and good things happen.
Pucks on net.
We used to talk about in Vancouver getting pucks on net.
Pucks on net and driving and making it a hard night on them.
5 long years.
Live on tape from Ryan's West End studio apartment, a hop, skip, and a jump away from the pump jack. This is Pucks on Net, a Vancouver hockey podcast that doesn't talk about fantasy or fancy stats. We would just like to, send a thank you to the Washington Capitals for wrapping everything up right in time as they just defeated the Pittsburgh Penguins, and this makes our show so much more topical, so much more relevant, and fresh throughout the week. It's got a shelf life now.
I was like, it's fresh for us. It might not be for the listeners.
Yeah.
It's pretty fresh that the Washington Capitals are going on to the conference finals after Ryan laughed in my face when I said, I picked Pittsburgh, mind you, but I said it's going to be a close series. He laughed and he laughed and he laughed.
With good reason. I mean, if it once, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on Alex Ovechkin.
I feel like these elimination games kind of caught me off guard, especially yesterday.
Because, when last time you were paying attention, there were Brad Marchand was licking people. Evander Kane was still around.
That's right. I turned the TV back on, and there they are all shaking hands. And I'm like, when did that happen?
Shouldn't they be licking each other? My name is Ryan Chapp. I'll be your host for the evening, and joined across from me is Geeta.
Thanks for welcoming me into your home and this makeshift podcast that we've got going on.
This week's show is brought to you by Rubbermaid, as that's what the board and computer is on top of.
And Disney VHS movies.
They're very low Rubbermaids, and I need it a little higher. So this is what I used. I'd probably spend hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars on these, or for Christmas gifts. Mm-hmm. They're now being used to prop up the board and the and the computer. PMAC, what are you doing over there?
Just Googling.
Okay.
Getting ready for the show.
Oh,
He's
doing
just
some research.
Swiping. Or I guess we just lick these days.
You lick to the right or lick to the left. Want to thank you for joining us. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at PucksandNetCA or PucksandNetCa. Dave, another week
Okay, is that guy holding up a Brett Lindros head? I swear to God.
in the crowd in Winnipeg?
Yes.
Well, PMAC, you were in Winnipeg. Did you see a big Brett Lindros head there?
Yeah, it's kind of like Al Snow from the old wrestling days. That's one of those wrestling references I can make for you from that year and a half when I watched wrestling.
Oh, well,
It's very specific, but I have a deep level of knowledge for that year and a half.
1999 is big in PMAC's world. And if you want to support the show monetarily, you can head on over to patreon.com/PucksandNet, where you can pledge a couple of bucks. And we had somebody...
Is it a couple of euros? Because Dave's still in Europe.
Yeah, we do need him to... we do need you to contribute to Patreon.
Couple of euros?
Couple of euros to get him home.
Sorry. That's all wine costs in Italy.
That's like
a couple of euros?
$5.
No, that's big money.
Yeah.
Oh, golly.
And I just wanted to do a quick shout out. Drew W. No last name, just the first name.
Drew Doughty?
Dowdy.
Drew W. Dowdy.
Oh, yeah.
The W is for winning, because that's all he does. They changed their pledge from $5 to $10.
Wow.
Thanks.
Thank you, Drew.
So there you go. Drew Barrymore Doughty from $5 to $10. And again,
Probably because we picked him to beat Vegas single-handedly.
Yeah, he would do it on the back of his doughy shoulders because he's not in very good shape. So Washington just defeated Pittsburgh.
Yeah, everyone, we're still kind of letting that one simmer.
It just happened. It's like 7:15. That game went to...
We haven't even processed it. Like literally 7:05 or something the moment I walked in.
You're like, oh no, wait. Oh,
I'm like, wait, what just happened?
Alex
Sticks
Ovechkin-
are flying.
Alex Ovechkin didn't know what to say in the interview. He was like, I've never been this far. I don't know what you're saying to me right now.
He also didn't expect it.
It reminded me of you remember those Stanley Cup commercials where it's like there are no words?
Right?
This is his Stanley Cup, man.
That's how Ovi was
Hey.
responding. He's like, you're just in the
Anything's possible. He just got over his hump. Sidney Crosby.
Sidney Crosby couldn't, he can't hear what Ovi had to say.
Oh.
He had his 2 Stanley Cup rings plugging his ears.
Sidney Crosby also doesn't know what to say. He's like, I've never lost before.
No, he used to. He used to lose all the time, remember? And you brought up, I think it was either the last show or the week before that, the Sid would lose.
Right.
And Thomas Volkoon would be in net for Pittsburgh.
I brought that up because
that resonated.
Marc-Andre Fleury, he's so washed up.
He's a plug.
Oh, wait.
What did I say? That guy's going to be a dynasty.
Wait, what does washed up mean again? That means really, really good, right?
He was when Thomas Volkoon, old Thomas Volkoon, was taking his job in the playoffs. He's been resurrected.
Marc-Andre Fleury is doing the Marian Hossa. Like, it doesn't matter what team you're going to. You're probably going to win a cup.
No, that's a reverse Hossa.
Oh, I thought Hossa was the winner.
No, he went to
Eventually.
He went to Pittsburgh. They lost. He went to Detroit.
Okay.
They lost. And then when they went, he signed with Chicago.
Right.
They're like, give Hossa the cup already. Holy Jesus.
Got it.
But yeah, this is uncharted territory because the Capitals haven't gone to the East Final since 1998.
Right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, did they play the Wings in '98 in the final? Is that
that
was the Flyers the year before?
Yeah, they swept both Stanley Cup finals, which that's a real dynasty, folks, where it's just give the Stanley Cup to Pittsburgh because nobody has a chance. And that was the year that who was the player that got paralyzed in that limo accident?
Constantino?
Yeah, and he was there, and he got to have the cup on. Real positive start to the show here.
Oh, yeah. That would have been 97, though, because I think that was between the two. Maybe.
It was 98.
So long ago.
He won. They were celebrating the cup.
They lost the first time in the final, right?
Who?
Detroit.
No, they won back to back.
Oh, okay.
But they lost against the Devils in 95 in the lockout year.
That's what I'm thinking of then, maybe.
Yeah. The other team that got eliminated was the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, didn't see that one coming either.
Do we suggest that? Do we ever bet against Vegas again in the rest of the playoffs? Do we have them beating the Preds or the Jets in round 3?
The last round I was like, it was Los Angeles. San Jose is much better, and now I'm like, well, the Pacific Division was generally very weak this year, so whoever wins this series, I've been saying, will win the Stanley Cup, so Vegas doesn't stand a chance.
Going into the playoffs, we didn't say, it's just Los Angeles. We said that after they lost.
Yeah.
It's just Los Angeles. We're like, no. It's Vegas going to the playoffs. They don't know what they're doing. Los Angeles is an experienced team.
Yeah.
They've got Drew Doughty. He's a real winner there.
Drew Doughty can do anything he puts his mind to, up to and including defeating the Golden Knights.
We were only saying that because they were playing the Golden Knights, who we were underestimating.
We keep underestimating them.
Those two teams going into it, I think a lot of us thought, that's like the weakest series in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But there was that moment a few weeks ago where you're like, can I get your Stanley Cup winner? And I gave up very defeatedly, wrote you a text.
Fine,
and
Vegas.
I said, oh my God, yeah, Vegas is probably just going to take it all now.
And then you're thinking.
And I gave you really good rationale too.
It was he fumbles his way into a dynasty and a Hall of Fame career.
You can't deny him anymore.
Guys, can I just say, the Jets have to make the final because I'm temporarily moving to Winnipeg for some work. And I talked the new boss into taking me to at least one
all
game
of them
in the finals if the Jets make it.
So
I have all of a sudden become a Jets fan purely because I want to attend a Stanley Cup final game in the crowd, not as media, but just, paint my face white.
and carry a giant Brett Lindros head.
Sure. Maybe it was a Dale Hawerchuk head. Maybe, they're keeping it local.
They don't look alike.
They all look the same.
Was
Hockey
that
players
big?
back then.
Yeah, it was literally a giant head. Someone was holding it up. You should have gone back to the crowd shot.
I like knowing that we think it's Brett
Yeah.
Lindros, that there's somebody in the crowd down outside the Bell MTS place that's like, people need to remember Brett Lindros.
They're big fans of NHLPA Be a Player.
Yeah, Be a Player, NHLPA, a combined effort between the National Hockey League and the National Hockey League's Player Association was a great show. People need to know this.
They used to communicate in those days.
Yeah, that's how they communicated through the show. Tonight on NHL Be a Player, we want at least 5-star accommodations, a 2-part episode. What are they trying to say here? PMAC was staying in the same hotel in the Peg as the Predators.
Allegedly, I didn't see any of them.
Okay,
but
I was just going to ask if you bumped into Mike Fisher.
I was in and out so quickly, I didn't get to see a whole lot of Winnipeg or any of my fellow hotel residents.
PMAC was
giving
partying.
you a list of places to visit now.
Yeah, please send me on Twitter your suggestions for what's fun to do in Winnipeg.
Nothing past 9 o'clock
Do we
because
have
nothing's
listeners?
open.
Do
There's some
we have
people
listeners in Winnipeg?
Fine. This is a call out. If any listeners are listening to this from Winnipeg,
Please self-identify.
Self-identify in Twitter, email, or Facebook, or
and
Instagram.
if you can convince me you're not a weirdo, maybe we'll go for a beer in Winnipeg.
Jesus, no weirdos, no uglies, just somebody with a solid credit rating and that can tap me into the social pipeline of the Peg.
Send Paul your resume.
And Paul, the first thing you're going to learn when you go to Winnipeg is how to fill up a sandbag.
You know, the night I was there, I was at a work dinner, so it was a game night, so I was watching it on my phone, even though there were like bosses giving speeches,
which is a trend in this podcast.
You know, it happens. But yeah, walking back through the crowd, the city is on fire, and a lot of places were open
Literally.
past 9. Not yet. It's not Vancouver. They're not there yet.
The city was alive. It was electric because
a lot of high fives were handed out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So did you like your time at the Peg?
Yeah, that 48 hours or so I spent
No,
there
but you
were
get
amazing.
you get a quick little feel for it.
Yeah, I've heard it's great in the summer.
I'm asking you how you felt in the Peg.
Oh, I enjoyed my 48 hours where I was at the airport and the hotel,
Right.
and the place we had dinner, where I got to walk around the city for maybe 20 minutes that night.
And in those 20 minutes, you fell in love.
With
The great city of Winnipeg.
With that
all those
Brett
folks,
Lindros guy.
the sea of white pouring out through the city, high-fiving everybody, happy because they won 7-4 that night. And
What is Winnipeg going to be like if they don't win?
I think they'll be okay.
Will it still be a desirable city, Paul?
They're still setting a new bar for hockey success. Yeah, I'm going there for a paycheck. Come on, Geeta. It doesn't matter.
We almost forget Blue Bombers, CFL training camp.
You'll be entertained for days.
I'm going to be there for weeks. Months.
Some interesting stats about Marc-Andre Fleury, who was washed up as my seamless transition from the Winnipeg back to that.
Mm-hmm.
He's had 4 shutouts in his 10 playoff games.
Sounds pretty washed up to me.
That's fifth, and he's fifth place all time in playoff shutouts. So that's getting pretty impressive.
What's the next one up?
Jesus, I should have looked that up. Let's just say it's like maybe Patrick Waugh or...
He's probably even higher. Curtis Joseph.
Yeah.
Marc-Andre Fleury could have more Stanley Cups than Patrick Waugh by the end of this run.
That's...
But do they count if you're on the bench?
He won. He's
No one's going to ask you whether you were on the bench or not when you won them.
Thomas Valkoon
with
didn't win
goalies,
that.
they do sometimes.
They do, but he still got the ring. I would just tell that story.
Hasek's won
That
the cup
one time
twice.
I won the cup.
Yeah.
That's what Glenn Healy does, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter that he was opening the door on the bench.
He just bangs his Stanley Cup ring on the glass table.
Is
and
the
it says,
Hall of Fame going to care whether he was on the bench? Look at all these Stanley Cups.
I'm not trying to take away from the guy, but it is when you compare him to Patrick Waugh.
Yeah.
That comes up where Patrick Waugh never won a Stanley Cup as a backup goalie. That's all I'm saying. I'm sorry, Marc-Andre.
Marc-Andre Fleury is so versatile. He's done it all.
Well, here's
There you
something.
go.
Here's something that Marc-Andre Fleury did that Matt Murray never did, and that's beat the Washington Capitals in the second round. So clearly, they.
I don't know. It takes 2 Stanley Cups over a second round Capitals victory.
You can't
That's just
win
me. That's
a
just me.
Stanley Cup if you don't get a second round victory.
Tell that to the Capitals.
Matt Murray's ears are plugged with his 2 Stanley Cup rings right now. Can't hear you.
So now the Eastern Conference Final is set, and that's Washington, who again uncharted territory for us.
Right.
Since 1998 versus.
And Tampa's the experienced team going in.
I suppose so.
They're the experienced franchise.
Yeah, they've gone to the Stanley Cup. They've been perennially good for a long time, and they're supposed to go. They should be the team out of the East. Do you see Washington getting past them?
No, I'd pick Tampa in that series. I think they're playing great hockey, and they're doing a good job of spreading things out, where like JT Miller's been playing on the top line. He's not a top line guy, but he's been playing like a top line guy.
Also gooning it up, taking vets out of the game.
Very Alex Burrows type of guy that when you elevate them with players that are first line caliber, holds his own offensively, but brings that different edge that you don't normally get in your top six.
What a fire that was lit under their ass when the Bruins beat the shit out of them in game 1, and they remembered who they were and what they were capable of. And then, once they started getting licked, that didn't go too well.
Yeah, licked. That was good play on words.
He became a huge distraction, didn't he?
I started to get that sense. Like, it went, when we talked about it last week or the show before.
But for his own team.
No, it looked like the core of that, the leadership core of that team, a.k.a. Big Z and Patrice Bergeron, were not that impressed with how he was acting. And it's like, if you can just tell by body language, they're trying to say as little as possible. And Marchand's kind of shooting his mouth off now since.
Right.
Didn't apologize for it. Said he thought it was funny or whatever.
But it was unbelievably childish.
Yeah.
Especially since he did it twice.
Yeah.
Well, given Leo Komarov a kiss, whatever. I think that was last year.
Last year? No, that was just a couple weeks ago.
No, the first time he did it.
Did he do it again?
It was in the regular season, and it was to Leo Komarov, and he gave him the Don Cherry to Doug Gilmour kiss on the cheek,
Okay, the big wet.
or just
smack.
just a little playful hey, we're gamesmanship, we're going hard against each other here.
Still,
you don't like being kissed?
not when I don't want to be kissed.
There's a time and place. I don't know if that was
Second
the time
period?
and place.
Air Canada Center?
Yeah.
Saturday night?
It would be like me sitting at my desk typing a report, and someone decided they should come along and
Someone from another department.
Hey,
Geeta, rivals.
Good job on that report. Mwah.
Yeah, no, that's probably not the time and place.
But it wasn't like a teammate or a former teammate coming over and congratulating him on something.
It's a taunt.
It was a dick move.
Yeah,
He's
it's
taunting him.
Yeah.
It's a good comparison to say there's rules against spitting on other players. How is this any different?
Well, that's what Ryan Callahan said, and he was the most egregious of licking. That was like a slobber. He was.
Oh, that was as far as his tongue could extend.
Yeah, he was Gene Simmons on the Rock and Roll Over tour.
Yeah.
He said on Marchand licking him, it's the same as spitting in someone's face, if not worse.
Yeah.
And it is, for the most part, that's a very good comparison.
It's you can't
similar germs.
You can't hide it on national TV.
Yeah, if you're it's just as bad.
You can't say I didn't do it, and sorry, the camera caught it.
Really, and they really caught it.
Yeah.
It was in such slow-mo.
It's lucky for him that Tampa Bay seems to have the same sort of philosophy to a certain extent as the Vancouver Canucks of 2011, where they did not fight back. They don't want to risk taking any sort of penalty.
Right.
So they just kind of when he punched Daniel Sedin, and I know Marchand, and I know people want him to be called Marchand. Marchand, he's French. I don't know. It's not Broad Marchand. That sounds weird.
Broad.
But yeah, he said it was in response to some punches thrown his way or whatever.
Such a lying sack.
But yeah, it's just
When you're going to get punched in the course of a game, everyone is. However, licking is not in the rule books. You don't do that.
a guy like JT Miller should have come in and just beat the crap out of him. And I tweeted this. I thought someone should have come in, started a fight, even if they instigated, but the refs should have given the instigator to Marchand for the lick. That would have been a way of, it's not suspension, it's not fines. Just being like, dude, if you're going to do this, we're going to let the bar or things be settled on the ice.
But that's exactly the point, right? Because you said, Tampa took the high road the way that Vancouver attempted to as well.
Yeah.
The thing is, he was going to continue to push it to see as far as he could because he wasn't getting the desired reaction that he wanted.
Yeah, and the result. He also wasn't getting the desired reaction or result from the NHL, which was just made no sense.
It's the, when you're with your little brother or whatever, you're like, I'm not touching you, and yet,
And then they lick you.
And then they
hovering a finger over my shoulder there for folks at home.
Yeah.
Described podcast.
I couldn't believe
we're accessible.
I couldn't believe that it took them almost an entire series or two playoff rounds to go, all right, maybe you shouldn't do that.
Well, yeah, like the first I had heard of it, I was amused by it because I think it had come out as the NHL told Brad Marchand not to elect people, and then he responded on Twitter or whatever saying they never asked me.
Nuh-uh, false.
And I'm
fake
like, oh,
news.
that's funny. And it was funny right then and there, and then it stopped being funny when he went full on lizard.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a repeat offense.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you not give him 10 minutes
but
there?
it's
Just get him out of the game.
It's not
teach him
even
lesson.
subtle. Like literally, he unhinged his jaw and pulled out his tongue.
And if you watch it, the official was right there. Like he could have leaned
Yeah.
over a little bit to the left. He could have licked the official. Like it's not like they missed this.
Well, you say that. There's a good clip. Is they're breaking up a scrum. Marchand is either trying to fight somebody or he's trying to lick somebody or both. And there's an arm in front of his face, and he goes to bite it.
Yeah.
And then he realizes that it's a striped shirt, and he goes, "Oh, I shouldn't bite a referee." Listen, I love having Brad Marchand in the league because it's just that much more to talk about.
Sure.
And we're not talking about two robots from Etobicoke playing hockey real good against each other.
No.
There is some.
There's some personality, but is this the personality that we want on the ice? Or, well, is this the personality that the Boston Bruins want on the ice?
he could still have a lot of color in his game without doing like the stupid stuff.
Back to the original point, did he take on a life of his own and become a distraction to his own team?
I'm starting to think so because he never was like he wasn't a distraction. He was just a hard player that put his toe over the line a bit too much, but never was this
Toe over the line,
He
finger in the
blat-
mouth.
he blatantly crossed it.
he was like class clowning out there.
Yeah.
And Big Z's like, maybe you shouldn't do that. He's like, they're not telling me I can't.
Yeah.
So there is a rule. It's Rule 70. My favorite times in the show is where I get to cite the official National Hockey League rule book.
Mm-hmm.
Rule 74.5, Part 3. Any player who persists in any course of conduct designed to incite an opponent into incurring a penalty. So you can't do that. So, these grizzled veteran referees who we praise when they can control the game and sheriff the game and, they can take care of these big, tough, lumbering idiots. All of a sudden, one guy starts licking everybody and nothing happens.
It is one of those, and
it's
I'm not
weird.
someone who wants violence in the game. I've been very outspoken, get headshots out of the game and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's times like that where you go, the officials should allow whoever to respond, somebody to come in, throw some punches. In all likelihood, Marchand's going to turtle there.
Yeah.
I think. And then give Marchand 5 and the instigator on top of that
Right.
to teach him. There's ways to be creative about this where you just, if you're bringing it on yourself, you have to live with the consequences. And as much as I want to take out a lot of violence from the game, that's one of those times where you see why enforcers were part of the game at one point in time. But nobody back then. It's just like politics. Things have gotten so dirty these days.
The Vegas Golden Knights going all the way to the top. Who would have seen that coming?
The fix was in. Was it?
Not sure where that came
I'm
from.
kidding.
I don't remember licking in that series.
For all we know, those referees were we know how vocal the players are to the refs. For all we know, they said, "Listen, I'm gonna beat the shit out of him if he does that to me again." And the refs probably were like, "Hey, do what you want, Maybe I won't give you the instigator. Who knows? It's tough to say." Jumbo Joe hasn't played since January 23rd.
But they didn't tell us what was wrong with him?
He had 2 knee surgeries. This is going back to the San Jose series when those bums were eliminated by the Golden Knights of Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
He hadn't played since January 23rd. He signed his 1-year, $8 million deal on a tractor, which we all oohed and awed and gushed about because he cut his own grass like a real man. And
That's funny because basically that is what Dave said would happen to Patrick Marleau last summer.
I'm amazed that the 2 players had such polar opposite runs. I mean, both reasonably quick, reasonably uneventful playoff exits. But like Jumbo, he hadn't played since January. He had about 40.
But for all intents and purposes, Marleau had a great year.
Marleau had a great year, and Marleau was the guy in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think he signed a multi-year deal in Toronto, isn't he?
7 years, $7.5 trillion.
Yeah, all the money.
Yeah.
It was a 2 or 3, I want to say.
I believe it's a 3-year deal. So I think that
the rights to Brad Marchand's tongue.
that's a pricey one.
I don't know how the Leafs got that.
Lou Lamoriello, he's a crafty GM. God, I can't wait to see who's going to be all bearded up and for the Maple Leafs next year. Now
The
that
whole
Lou's
team.
gone.
Long hair, beards,
This is
turtlenecks.
Do you know any of the besides the facial hair and the weird regimented team dinners? Do you know any of the weird?
Sorry, what weird regimented team dinners?
Lamoriello, he would have these team dinners of.
At his home?
I don't know. For all we know, he could have, but it was like almost. You mentioned that once in the past, like with the Devils at least.
We looked into it a while back.
Yeah,
And he was very. The Devils were run in a very old-fashioned way for a very long time, beyond where other teams would do any of that type of stuff. But
yeah.
he was an old school guy. He is an old school. He's passed away. He's still around.
God rest his soul in Toronto.
But yeah, beards. I can't remember off the top of my head. There are a few others though. Yeah.
But he let. I mean,
No
the
sideburns.
Devils would grow beards.
I think just in the
Devils had playoff
There might have
beards.
been an exception in the playoffs. There might have been rules like
No one's telling Scott Stevens what to do with his face.
if you have a skin condition, you can grow a beard. You can have a mustache as long as it's no lower than the earlobe.
Shows up with a ruler.
I think Lou's impact, especially with Babcock's, is they're very strict on what was said, how the players spoke to the media, and how they, and it was very kind of Bill Belichick-y.
Okay.
And I think that the general vibe in Toronto is that the young kids weren't really enjoying that. Like they kind of wanted to act out against it, but they couldn't. And everybody was very.
It is a different generation from like what it was like. I mean, his time in New Jersey is now 20 years ago.
Yeah, total different generation.
A lot of these kids weren't even born then.
Yeah, and they, in the junior hockey they played wasn't this horrible death camp and, death march through the, for 4 years. And
Structure would have helped in the trap days, which the Devils were very good at. Structure, it's all you keep your position, hold the line, 5 guys across the blue line, no matter what, no chances. 1-0 games.
But
Marty Brodeur.
It's just kind of, hey, if you do your job and you don't screw around, who cares, how you look or what you say, as long as it doesn't, piss off the team. It's not the biggest deal. So,
Well, how did that work out for San Jose, Ryan?
well, I mean, nobody expected Las Vegas to win the primaries like that. Come on. Yes, Geeta?
I did.
You did, yes.
That's right.
You saw this one early November.
I saw this coming.
Geeta was really watching those Golden Knight games hard with her yellow legal pad and noticing the crisp, hard passes and how quickly they made it through the neutral zone.
Big fan of William Karlsson and those luscious locks of his.
She's like, his shooting percentage. How can he not? How come nobody's seeing this?
No one trusts my Corsi rating.
Are we worried about where Evander Kane's going to go in the summer?
Is it time for him to sign? Is it that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he was the deadline deal.
Oh.
And he had success, and he looked good, and it looks like he was fitting in there.
He was injured in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was. This is, again, my favorite part of the playoffs is where you learn how injured people are. He had a separated shoulder and an earlier MCL injury. So I'll pop it into place, tape it up, and maybe we'll inject you with something that Dr. Feelgood gives you and get out there and play, kid.
Dr. Feelgood, that was the guy that was Trump's doctor that said the dictated letter. Martin Short played him on SNL this week, right?
That's the same one,
Yeah.
yes.
He seems to have found a fit
Yeah,
in San Jose.
He's found a group of pals that really like him. And if
And that doesn't happen for him anywhere, not everywhere, anywhere.
Yeah, and nobody else seems to really like him.
The story about the tracksuit came up with one of the cab drivers in Winnipeg while I was there. I was only there for 2 days, and of course, an Evander Kane story comes up.
Were you walking around in this?
No.
Paul's wearing Pucks on Net version 2.
A T-shirt.
I
yeah.
will be this summer, though.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he could. If you want the real side of the story, you ask me because I
mentioned
into
your
Buff.
part of that story that's been told on the show many
Yes,
times.
Ryan is a part of the story that Dustin Bufflin tells.
It's funny, Ryan actually was the guy that physically picked up the tracksuit. Dustin was like, I bet you won't do it, Ryan.
I'll do
I
it.
bet you won't do it.
Hey, who? And then as I'm walking out, I hear, "Hey, why is my tracksuit all wet?" I'm like, "Oh, it was Big Buff. I gotta go." Anyway,
That's exactly how it
It
happened.
now hangs in the studio apartment.
yeah, it's a little soggy.
It was nice of you to put it in the rafters.
For those that maybe weren't listening then, the night that I like telling the story. It's great. The night that Evander Kane's tracksuit was thrown in the shower in Vancouver, the next morning
He was a scratch that night.
he was scratched, and the next
He had
morning
nothing to wear.
I ran into Dustin Bufflin on the sidewalk outside the Fairmont, and he flagged me down because I was wearing a Vancouver Giants jacket.
But how did he flag you down?
You can go
Tell
listen.
it.
He shouted Claude Noel repeatedly at Ryan.
I'm standing there in my Giants zip up, and I hear, "Oh, Vancouver Giants, Claude Noel." That's exactly what he said to me.
Sounds like a young broadcast journalism student trying to do some play-by-play.
Yeah, and I don't mean this any disrespect, but this is exactly what my first thought was. I thought this was a overzealous child, or maybe because he was so excited about the Giants jacket, that maybe it was a boy with maybe special needs or something.
You don't need to put that part in the script.
No, because that's what I thought it was. So I look over and I'm like, oh, I'll have a nice chat with this guy, and we get to talk to the Jets. And I look down, and there's Bufflin sitting on the cement, and I vocally yell out, "Holy shit, it's Big Buff!" And he goes, "Hey," and I said, and I just go, "Buff, what were you playing forward last night? Why was Kane scratched?" And he goes, "Oh, long story." And he tells me that before any of this comes out in the media. So
he didn't tell you what happened, but
all he said was long story.
Yeah, you put two and two together once the story came out, and you're like, "Oh, that's the long."
That's fantastic.
The story.
He threw the tracksuit into the shower.
It's all Big Buff, and now he's throwing his weight around. He's playing 4.5-minute shifts. We started watching this game before you got here, Geeta.
Yeah.
Like the amount of time it took you to walk from your apartment to my apartment, your palatial estate. Big Buff played one shift. Because he's that kind of defenseman.
So 20 minutes.
Yeah, whole period he was out there.
He shouldn't have. He looked pretty slow about midway on that shift. But he's been amazing. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge fan. But he's got to shorten up those shifts. At least that one in particular we noticed. But yeah, Kane.
They put the whistles away in this game or what?
We're playing in real time, folks. Nothing's open in this town past 9 o'clock. We got to get to OJ's before it closes. Back to Evander Kane.
Evander Kane. It'll be interesting if Joe Thornton potentially could come back for another year. Won't likely get that kind of money again after an injury-plagued season.
Yeah.
The Kane money is in the
all
in
of
the
a
cards.
sudden, that might be where you get that money.
That's
I don't know
$7 million or whatever.
what other signings, because they've got some good young guys that are going to be making pay raises as their contracts come up, and I haven't looked down their numbers as of yet. But theoretically, it shouldn't be that tough a move to keep him around. He seems to fit in.
Well, especially if everyone else wants to keep him.
Joe's driving him around town. He's his own personal
that-
Uber.
On that tractor.
Yeah, that's what he picked him up from the airport on his tractor.
It's all right.
It was a very Brian Burke kind of move.
I'm just looking at the Caps here, or the Sharks.
Like they're talking to Solani.
God, he's so tanned. Like I don't think that made the cold open, but he just lives he has the perfect life. And he escaped Winnipeg. He escaped, Finland. Both lovely places in their own right.
Is he going to be coaching the Ducks next year?
Anybody could coach the Ducks next year.
Ducks have a coach this year? Or did they get rid of him?
No, I don't think they axed him, but
they still have Randy Carlyle, and they're in a real. Ryan Kessler was hurt most of the year. Corey Perry is still a really good hockey player, although a big baby.
Yeah.
A big baby that can play. Ryan Getzlaf, they need. I think they have one more year to decide what they have there.
Yeah,
but
because everybody's reaching like their mid-30s now.
Yeah, Kessler's an 85er.
But the thing is, they're all sort of the same age, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of money invested in them.
Big money, like $24 million in the three guys.
So even if you have, Ricard Raquel and that type of guy coming up, it's a little bit of a concern when you got that much money invested there.
But you can't jump to conclusions based on the year they had or the quick bounce by the Ducks or the Sharks.
Those three are still very talented. Kessler's probably I'm not trying to insult him. I know that comes commonly. Ryan Kessler, he's
insult the shit out of him.
The least valuable of the three of those old guys, but they're all still effective players.
Absolutely, he's the least valuable, and not from a jerk standpoint. He's been perennially injured his whole his whole career. He started having hip surgeries like his rookie season. Like, that's a guy whose body is broken.
At this point, he's probably a solid, when he's healthy, third-line center that you want.
He's not really a winner.
and they're paying him to be a top line center essentially.
Silver medal,
Yeah.
President's trophies.
Second place.
He's got second place written
Yeah.
all over him.
Stanley Cup finalist.
Do you think Evander Kane will go to Vancouver, or do you think he'll be smart? Because
I don't think he should come home
For his own sake.
for his own sake.
is that still a thing?
I feel like there's probably a lot of people who
No.
might not be the best influence on him. Not necessarily that there's like so much
Brock
fun,
Besser, I hear
fun
you.
stuff. That Ben Hutton, that real rebel there.
Hey, you want to come over to my place, play some video games, smile a little?
Ever since
Ben is still one of my favorite guys in the league, so if he hears this, I'm sorry. But yeah, he seems like a cool guy. You go over to his place, you play some video games, you smile a
That's
little.
what Travis Green says.
You have a beer or two, you play some chell.
smile a little. Let's go over to the mirror. Let's check out these smiles. There is some.
Travis Green's a little like, can you smile a little less?
Can you stop that kid? What are you doing? You're not supposed to be having fun. You see where we are in the standings?
He could keep smiling if he starts, smashing guys into the boards and stuff. Like, that's the best kind of tough guy.
Smiling in the press box.
This is some big news for you, PMAC, and it's for Canucks fans especially you've been singing his praise the last few weeks on the show. Petrus Palmu,
Rookie of the year in the Finnish League.
and he's told 11:30 Rick Dollywall, I believe, that he has been released because he's going to
Saw this.
sign with the Canucks.
Ooh.
So that's the little. Is he a defenseman?
No, he's a forward. He's a
Oh.
small, offensively minded.
All right.
The only reason he wasn't taken higher is because, he's like 5'7" or something.
Because they couldn't see
And
him down
as
there.
Paul said, there is a downward trend.
Well, you put it that way, and I didn't get it. But now I get it. But yeah, you look at the success of some of the smaller players in Tampa and such, and
Yeah.
even Pettersson. The more we look at him, it was interesting. He's at the World Championships right now.
Yep.
He's playing on their top line. Got a goal today, at least
Okay.
one. But the John Klingberg, who plays for Dallas normally, is playing for the Swedish national team, compared him to Patrick Kane.
Oh.
He said this guy is he knew he was good coming in,
Right.
but there's enough of an age difference there that he hasn't seen a whole lot of him in person because he's been playing in North America.
Yeah.
He goes, this guy plays like Patrick Kane. He's a lot bigger than Patrick Kane.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are concerned about his size for next year, that was a comment to me that was sort of, so no one's making him say this.
Yeah.
But he said,
What if Jimbo did
Wait,
make him
is
say
he
that?
really a lot bigger than Patrick Kane?
well, Patrick Kane's what, 5'8", 5'9", maybe?
I thought you just said this guy was 5'7".
No,
No,
Petrus
Petrus
Palmu.
Palmu's 5'7".
Oh, okay.
Elias
Patterson's like
Pettersson.
6'1", but he's
okay.
thin.
That's
Like-
right. He's the
Ryan Miller thin.
yeah.
So,
He's
I
real
mean,
skinny.
Yeah, if NHLers are saying this kid's surprising me, looks
Yeah.
like a young Patrick Kane,
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's like, well, if you're at that level, and I wasn't sure if he was there,
Yeah.
maybe he does make the NHL and make a big impact next year.
Well, if you look at the top 6 of the Canucks, now hang on. This
are you
is
saying he's going to fail because there's no one there to feed him the puck?
no. I'm saying if you really think about it, there is a spot for him to take in that top 6. If it's Besser, Horvat,
Sutter is currently the second line center, I believe, or Gagne. So I mean,
He's
they
also
don't
the captain.
they don't want him playing center. But looking at this roster, if he comes in and impresses, he could play center next year on the second line.
yeah. So
But yeah, Petrus Palmu
also playing second line center.
Yes, the Canucks got I think it was first tier Swedish League MVP was Pettersson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second tier Swedish League is Jonathan Dahlin MVP.
Right.
And Rookie of the Year in Finland was Petrus Palmu. And everyone is very impressed if he can withstand the physicality and play like these small guys in Tampa right now.
Yanni Gord.
All of a sudden, Palmu might be able to jump into the lineup in a couple of years. I don't think next year.
No.
But if he goes into the AHL and doesn't succumb to Dave's big fear of small players being destroyed in the AHL, he might be the type of guy that comes in and at least maybe short term is effective, like a Steve Correa or one of these small guys we've seen have.
Short-term.
There you go. But the modern NHL, as I brought up last week, is a different league. So who knows how Brandon Reed or
Modern
Steve
AHL is
Correa might do in the NHL
Yeah.
today.
Right.
There's spots to take, and there's money to spend in the Canucks.
In Vancouver, yeah.
Speaking of that, so things are looking pretty good for Jimbo's scouting. Brian Burke said something I think it was just on the radio, that was quite
Brian Burke's everywhere these days.
I love listening to Brian Burke talk about the game. He is great, and he's basically said he's looking for a full-time media job. He's tired of travel and dealing with Ken King and the bullies in Calgary. And
he married a news anchor. He has a thing for the media.
I think they're divorced.
Oh,
now.
I didn't know.
He's
that.
got a new wife.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
I think. Yeah, I think. Don't quote me on that.
Well, we can double check.
Pucks on Net gossip. Go check that out.
We'll check that.
Go check that out.
As we like.
I love in the intermissions. I've seen him a couple times though. He's got like a notepad in front of him.
Yeah,
and he doesn't even try to fake it. He's like, "All right, you want to know what I thought of that period?" And he looks down the entire time. This guy, he was good. He did this. He did this.
But that's what you want in a guy, because
he came off like a coach. I know he wasn't a coach, but he came off like an old school.
He came off
no
like,
BS kind of thing.
And he goes, "Here's what I have taken." Instead of just talking about talking points, like, and I listen, you can kind of hear. I mean, like, we do a podcast every week. We know the talking points, and you know how to fill 45 seconds of radio time or TV time. So to have him come in with, "Here's the more in-depth takeaways I have from this game," it's a great. It's a great change.
Just wild idea right now, and I'm not
Coach's
trying.
corner.
Yeah, I'm not trying
He
to
should do
push
it. He
Don
should
out
do
the
it.
door, but Don, one way or another, is close to the end of his days on the air.
If he
would be
the perfect,
a very similar character if they opened him up just a little bit more, and that just comes with comfort in front of the camera.
Yeah,
he's a similar personality.
Truculent.
Young, obviously, very truculent guy. But yeah, if he opens up just a little bit more with the character, and I know it's in there, he could be a good, probably not long term, but he could do 5 or 10 years as the new Don Cherry, and some folks probably wouldn't even notice the difference.
Well, the difference is I don't know if it's Harvard, but he has he was
he's a
lawyer.
smart guy.
Like, he is an educated man. He taught at UBC. He taught law at UBC. So the difference is he's going to have a little more coherent sentences. Later in his life, he'll be saying, "All right, now this guy here, watch it now, roll it back, go kids, let's go."
He is a little bit more, and now watch, he'll say something. He's a little more PC than Donnie. Like, he's been involved with a lot of initiatives in the NHL. You can play type of stuff. So, I mean, he's not going to say
he's got
similar things, at least to the degree of Don Cherry.
Grapes doesn't say anything like that stupid. It's more about players from this country aren't as tough as Cam Neely.
The same realm, though, is what I'm saying. He says things where you're like, that's just general blanket, biased.
You know how those French guys from the Q play.
They're all the same.
They're all the same.
So you're going to get a bit of an upgrade, I think, in a Brian Burke from that. That's all I'm saying.
We now go to the Pucks on Net Canadian journalism and sports figure gossip desk with Geeta.
Right. This is breaking news. Brian Burke and Jennifer Burke are still
Microphone.
married.
They are?
Yeah.
Oh, good for them.
Yeah.
And
I don't feel bad anymore.
Yeah, I
Yeah, everything seems to be A-okay.
Are you on somebody's Instagram or
She's
something?
got a live feed of their living room right now.
Burke's got a legal pad out. He's jotting down about the Jets right now.
And apparently he's cooking her dinner at the same time. What a guy.
Well, now I kind of have to see if there is an Instagram account.
Okay, well, you look that up because I'm going to read this Brian Burke quote.
Okay.
He's talking about Jimbo. So Jim Benning, if you haven't heard our Jim Benning rating episode, that's over on our Patreon, patreon.com/pucksonnet. Couple of bucks. $5 or more gets you instant access to that, where we go through almost damn near
one of our extra episodes.
Yeah, that's a bonus one. It's I had a lot of fun doing that. That was our bonus.
It's about 6 hours long.
But that's the short version. That's the radio play one.
We went for drinks in the middle of it, came back, hammered it out for the next 3 hours.
So we've given our thoughts on Jim Benning, and this is Burke. In his interviews, Jim Benning comes off like he really doesn't know what he's doing because he speaks slowly, but he's a smart guy and a good hockey guy. His interviews don't reflect his intellect. So that's almost like a compliment wrapped in an insult, wrapped in another compliment.
It sounds like I just was spending some time with the family yesterday, and they had a Simpsons marathon going. And one of the episodes was the what are they called? The Hell Sharks or the Hellfish?
Flying Hellfish.
The Flying Hellfish episode.
No.
And
T-Mac.
Ox. Do you remember Ox?
Yeah.
Ox was the big
basically
that you assume is dumb, and he makes some comments early in the episode that lend you to think that, and then at the end
he describes the tongue T or whatever it's pronounced.
He describes a special agreement where they, with very precise wording and legalities involved, but he says it in a slow, dim-witted stereotypically
Yeah.
kind of a voice. Basically, that's what Brian Burke is saying about Jim Benning. He's the ox of the NHL general managers.
Okay.
I believe that. I think that's a very fair assessment. I would like to listen to Jimbo talk about like scouting a player or what he sees or why he's picking this guy instead of just going, well, he's a big guy, banging him into the boards. We need guys like that in the lineup that can play, good players,
It is a good point that when you bring that up and some people insult him for, using sort of old school hockey terminology. He's a big body and he does this and that.
Need a big guy in that lineup.
There's a lot of general managers and people in NHL management that fall back on those sort of stereotypical.
Look at Roman Polak in Toronto. They love that guy there.
I just mean when they do a media assessment of like especially a prospect, they keep it generic. It's almost like when you're trying to get an injury report out of a team, they don't go too imprecise because it is a little bit like holding your cards close to your chest with what you look for precisely and how you came to this conclusion. So we came to the conclusion, spoilers, in that episode that
he's trying to make some money here, Paul.
He's an average general manager in our experience. He's not as bad as some people tell you. He's not as great as some people will tell you. He's done some great things. He's made some mistakes.
Brandon Sutter.
Good Brandon.
We judge him like we Vancouverites judge him the way we judge him. It's because there hasn't been a lot of winning under him.
Yeah.
And that's why we're harsher and more critical of him.
And we came to, at least sort of my closing point in that episode too, I'm giving it all away. Just, you don't want an average general manager. That can be the death. Average is fine.
Yeah.
But if you want to be a winning franchise, if you've got an average guy, if you've got a Dave Nonis in there who's pulled a couple of good deals, you want the excellent guy, and you're going to keep rolling through guys until you find the excellent. It's kind of like that with coaching.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
A perfectly adequate manager or coach is great if you're in a market that doesn't care about winning, but otherwise you're just going to keep rolling through potentials until you find one that clicks.
That's right, yeah. What else we got here? Oh, Francis
I
St.
was going to ask what market didn't care about winning, but then I'm like, oh yeah, Carolina.
Oh my God, nobody wants to work there.
That was who I was thinking.
Yeah.
Time. They won a Stanley Cup though, so.
Why don't we just put together like a resume and an audition package?
We'll do the Jim Benning episode. We'll give that to them.
But we'll also like make an American Idol tape and like submit it and see. We might be the only applicant. We as a team could run that team.
I think we could run that team.
Yeah.
I was listening to, it was Jeff.
as a team.
Did you do air quotes?
No, I kind of did a shrug.
Oh, it's a shrug, an air shrug.
Oh, you would be all over it if Ryan and I managed to get that job.
I'd be happy to be a part of the team. I'd want someone with experience. I don't want us going in there like a poor little young Trevor Linden.
No, not at all.
We'd want someone to teach us the
Wait,
we wouldn't pretend we don't know anything. We'd lie.
We wouldn't know anything. Hang on, let me get back to you on that.
We'll figure it out.
When do you need an answer about that? When is practice? Give you something at the end of the day. If you haven't been keeping score at home, they had a new owner, and it's something Dundon, Jim or Paul or Don or Ron, something Dundon.
Okay.
And he,
the owner of Dundon Mifflin.
Yeah,
Dundon
that's
Mifflin.
exactly where my mind went to.
And he came in and he was talking about we want the fans to be more connected. We talked about it, a few months ago, and he was doing everything he can to build back a relationship with the fan base in Carolina. And he's rich as hell. And they thought they would, instead of, I believe it was a $59 million internal cap, they would say, you know what, use all the money you want and build a winner. And he's since gone the budget route.
Yeah.
And he kind of wants to have a general manager that they have a series of situations that they will be presented with in the season, and they have predetermined ways to approach them. And he compared it to, I believe, how the Philadelphia Eagles played defense.
Okay.
So it's not the best approach.
Yeah.
He's also lowballing all of the a general manager. Like some general managers that lose make multi-million dollars a year. $2+ million.
Mm-hmm.
They're offering general managers about $400,000.
Okay.
So they want. It's like you want to pay me that little, which obviously that's a very good amount. That's a lot of money, but you want to go
split 4 ways.
Yeah, to not be a real GM, to be in this hokey pokey system, and a very
Well, you think
unsure environment.
they'll go the Chayka Dubas kind of route?
Nobody wants the assistant GM, Mike in LA. What's his name? Mike
Fuda.
Fuda. He didn't want it. Lawrence Gellman, the former Canucks GM, he didn't want it. Gellman would rather be on TSN 1040 radio on Wednesdays once a week than go be the faux general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes
For $400,000.
Yeah, that's what he makes.
You know what else? That doesn't speak to, like, you won't command respect around the league if you're the lowest paid general manager.
Yeah.
And you have a job that nobody else wants.
Well, and they also know that you are, and you're a kind of a puppet. You have a puppet master and the owner, and they know you don't have any money.
Yeah.
Is he gonna pull in somebody who's just trying to claw their way back into, like, I'm thinking Mike Milbury type of guy that has a bad
return of Milbury
reputation. If you go over his list of trades,
I would watch that
Mike
show.
Milbury might be the worst general manager, at least in the last 30 years or so.
They have a very bad GM.
That's literally a horror movie waiting to happen,
Who
like
are
the
we talking
sequel.
Who has a bad GM? NBC Sports?
They have an interim. Don Waddell is their interim general manager.
Oh, and he didn't look like he wanted to be at that draft lottery at all.
He was wearing his turtleneck and little everything. Oh, it looked great.
In Carolina?
Yeah.
Don Waddell's working down there?
And
Don Waddell knows a thing or two about losing.
Yeah, he was the Atlanta Thrashers.
Yeah, I was going to say. So
yeah.
Do they pull in like a Ray Ferraro type of guy who's trying to sort of come in from the outside?
They need somebody.
But that's the thing. If you're coming in from the inside, you need to make an impact too, because you don't. This isn't the job. This is a starter job.
Yeah, and it's an owner that's looking for. He's taking the Moneyball approach in some capacity. And if you're getting paid that much and you don't have results, they'll look for another one. So it's a very, very murky situation
I've
there.
I've watched Moneyball. I could be the Jonah Hill to your Brad Pitt.
You with the
You did drop the word Corsi earlier.
Don Waddell, let's get to work today. What do? We got to do to get Jason Spezza in Hurricanes red?
Not a lot.
Probably not a lot.
Not that much. And Joe Nieuwendyk was a scout there. He's left the organization.
I was like, what? We're bringing back Nieuwendyk?
Ron Francis was the GM, and then they made him president.
I remember that era.
Yeah, and then they said, "Why don't you work from home, Mr. President?" And then they just canned him. And
I heard they're trying that with the current U.S. president, but it's not
similar
working out.
approach. Sit in bed, watch TV, and their coach Bill Peters, he resigned because he had a chance to get off the sinking ship and go to Calgary, where their arena is sinking from the flood.
Better than Hawaii. Those poor folks. I hope you guys are okay. I don't want to make a joke. I'm seriously concerned.
It's a natural disaster, Paul. Of course it's not a joke. How could you do that? Making light of a volcano.
We're thinking of you, our listener in Hawaii.
There might be a couple.
We're watching this game.
I only know Chels.
I think that's the only one in Hawaii. Yeah. We could be wrong.
She's having a rough day. Her Penguins lost.
Oh, yeah. Sorry for your loss.
As we're recording this, as we're slowly getting to wrap up the show, the Jets are down to the Predators in Game 6 of the second period.
It's not what I want to see, Ryan.
Do you want to make a bold prediction? Well, because this podcast will be over before the game's over.
Oh, that Winnipeg will still take this series.
Yeah. So, do you think that the Jets will win this? Will they score 6 unanswered? Sure.
It's only a 2-goal lead. That's nothing.
And they have that shaky Pecorine in there, who's a Vezina Trophy nominee right now. All right. We also
is Connor Hellebuck.
Oh my God, he just blew my mind. I didn't even think about that. Who'd you pick for the Vezina?
Still Marc-Andre Fleury.
Write-in candidate Marc-Andre Fleury.
Vasilevsky's the
other one, yeah.
I think Hellebuck might win it.
He's a very good player. Let's go to some questions from Twitter here. And we referenced this one at the beginning of the show. And this is from Adam. What hockey player would you most like to lick? And which player would you least like to be licked by?
This is could easily become inappropriate.
Because he didn't say male hockey player. And you could just say, like, Phil Kessel's sister.
Amanda Kessel? She has
Yeah.
a name, Ryan.
I don't think that's what he's meaning. Though.
Well, because women hockey players aren't hockey players.
But no,
too,
that actually crossed my mind because I'm like, oh, there's some pretty attractive players in the Olympics. Team Canada, Team US, all those teams have some very attractive women. It's inappropriate, though, if I say that. So then on the counter side, is it inappropriate if we say this about men?
Let's just say Brad Marchand.
Yeah,
Objectifying.
Or Mike Ricci.
I don't want anybody licking me, to be honest, hockey player-wise.
Yeah, so the least one... can't think.
See, then I'm gonna say...
I feel like we'd be shaming someone.
Brent
by
Sopel?
saying, I don't want to be licked by you.
I'm going to say a member of one of the national women's teams, and that's going to be inappropriate.
No, let's go with our old standby. Jamie Benn doesn't know what he's doing with a tongue.
So, well, you got one answer.
Yeah.
Heather Smartass, who will play Marc-Andre Fleury in VGH the Motion Picture? And you replied with a photo tonight or yesterday. And who was that?
That was the dad from This Is Us. He played Jess on Gilmore Girls.
I picked the guy who was that guy that hosted Saturday Night Live a few weeks ago?
Donald Glover.
No.
Yeah. Who was so hot.
It was a very
Did you see that new This Is America music video?
I did. I had to rewatch.
You have to watch that one about 10 times. There's a lot of layers to the lyrics and the video.
Yeah. Who are you thinking of?
John Mulaney?
Oh, he doesn't have...
Just because he looks a little bit like him?
He doesn't look like...
He's
Marc-Andre?
very animated, and he's like, what? And he would kind of sing and dance while he did it. And he'd be like, what am I doing in Vegas?
He's not an actor. I mean, can we just say then I'm going to say the lead singer from Simple Plan?
Yeah, there's no wrong answer here.
No,
it's open to interpretation.
It's got to be someone younger because it's going to be down the road a little ways after maybe Marc-Andre Fleury is retired.
I was like, I actually looked up. I'm like, Al Pacino could do this.
What do you mean I got to go to Las Vegas?
Tom Holland, maybe?
It's too hot to wear these pads.
Too
Charming,
young.
Smiley. Well, it's because this movie's going to get made in 10 years.
Ben Hutton could play him.
Because he can pay him less. He'll do it for cheap. He'll do it for Carolina Hurricanes general manager money.
Maybe there's your new general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, Ben Hutton. Again, I really like Ben and hope he comes back and is an impact somewhere next year in the NHL.
You're allowed to poke fun at him for being a bit of a goofball without you being worried about walking down the street that he's going to hit you with a sock full of nickels.
I just feel bad because he's a good guy. Of the guys I get after games, he's one of the nicer ones.
So now you're worried come October.
See, I'm more concerned that Paul is worried that he's listening.
Because Ben Hutton would listen to hockey podcasts. He's an everyman.
So you're worried that Paul in the locker room or whenever
they all listen to Pucks on Net to get amped up before games.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be great if he came up to you and said, Paul, I don't like the mean things you were saying about me.
I heard you were I heard you were saying I smile too much. That's bullshit.
Maybe that's the turnaround. He gets upset about these comments, and he comes in next year just pissed off about everything. So we've just saved his career.
You've turned his life around
in a new direction. 180.
Here's a good question. That's not that Ben Hutton will not be the answer of.
Okay. Well, let's hear it before you make that judgment.
Let's jump to conclusions here. Matt Fallman, he asks, who wins the Conn Smythe Trophy if the playoffs end right now? And right now means that the Preds right now, yeah.
Marc-Andre Fleury is probably an easy pick.
Played by Ben Hutton. So clearly I was wrong in jumping to conclusions. Ben Hutton has come up again.
Are the Knights where they are without Marc-Andre Fleury in net?
You're getting shutouts 40% of the time.
No.
You're not. So I would say Marc-Andre Fleury.
Until the Penguins lost, things were looking pretty good. They had a couple guys that were 2 points a game. Gensel and Crosby are both leading the league in points. So
yeah,
until they were eliminated, they would have been contenders definitely. And
I feel like Winnipeg's got a couple of guys that...
Mark Scheifele, definitely. Maybe Blake Wheeler. Carter Hellebuck, he's been really good too.
Connor,
sorry.
Fantastic, yeah.
I hate the C names. Sorry about that. Sorry, Connor. Almost did it again.
Connor.
That's okay.
So we can
forgive you.
We can confirm though that Ben Hutton will not be the Conn Smythe Trophy winner.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately not. I think that's about it.
Could he award the cons? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, he's playing Gary Bettman in a movie. It's called Lockout, the Gary Bettman story. Hey, I think another Lockout's coming up soon. About a year.
Isn't that going to be like a puppet movie though? And they've got the Count from Sesame Street playing Gary.
Three lockouts. It'll be 4.
Is he like Vladimir Putin and just commissioner for life?
He keeps making them so much money.
Yeah.
Like he's as much as like.
But there's like no term to it. I don't even know how old Gary Bettman is because he's been around since my childhood.
Okay, let's play a game. How old? Like everybody's favorite game show is how old is Gary Bettman? Geeta, you get to pick first.
67.
That's
He's been commissioner for 25 years. He was in the NBA before.
106.
63.
You two are very good at this. He is 65 years young. So
I almost said 65, but I thought that was too square a number, so I bumped a couple off.
He was really young.
Yeah, he's been like a bit. Well, here's the thing: like he makes all this.
He also hasn't aged. Like he's always looked like this.
Well, he's very relaxed. He knows he's got job security. He probably makes a shitload of money. Yeah. People boo him, and he gets off on that.
I mean, I don't know if Geeta was complimenting him on looking young. I think it was more he looked a little older in his early days.
Yeah. Like I thought he was 67.
I'm sorry, Gary.
Here we go.
In 1995, I thought he was 67.
Senior citizen Gerald Bettman. Gerald Bettman.
That's his full name, though, isn't it?
Isn't it Gerard? Would it be? Yeah, it'd be Gerard Bettman.
It's like Jim Rutherford's full name is Jimothy.
Gary.
You wouldn't have guessed.
I guess I can look at his Wikipedia. It is Gary Bruce Bettman. His birthday, it's coming up June 2nd.
Okay.
So we could send him a present at the NHL headquarters.
I just picture security.
Listen,
pulling that aside, poking it a bit, running it through the X-ray once or twice.
It's just a musical card.
This is getting ridiculous. Now, listen, I know that we have some loose shows during the playoffs, and there's only so much to talk about. This is hockey related, and sometimes we're going to explore Gary Bettman's Wikipedia. And we asked about. I just said he probably makes a shitload of money.
Oh no!
How much money do you think Gary Bettman makes?
$2.3 million.
No, per year.
Per year,
$27 million a year.
He makes for the lockout shortened 2012-2013 season. Bettman received $8.8 million in total compensation.
That's like Sidney Crosby money.
That's cheap compared to whatever I thought he was going to make.
Here's where it gets funny.
I lowballed him.
Yeah, I was
giving him Carolina Hurricane money.
You're gonna fit in North Kakalaki real good. In 2013-2014, the NHL thought, "Man, you're doing a great job getting locking out the league. So we're gonna give you $9.5 million." And
that's not a huge raise considering what he was making. It's like, 10%.
He was making, okay, well, get this. He was making $3.77 million before the 04-05 lockout.
Okay.
So the NHL...
And inflation.
And lockout. So
unlike adjustment, like whatever.
Yeah, because you know how much the property taxes in Connecticut or wherever he lives is.
Of course.
He's probably barely scraping by. He probably has a Patreon page.
He's got to take a 2-seater helicopter into the office every morning. 2-seater!
Ugh. Disgusting.
Yeah, he's got to sit next to the pilot like some kind of schmuck. Ever tell you about the... Oh, that's another
That
story.
sounds... Maybe we'll do it on Patreon. I mean, on 5 Minutes or Pain.
Maybe.
We can wrap up the podcast here. I want to make sure you'll follow us on Twitter at PucksandNetCA or PucksandNetCa. And...
was that a French-Canadian ca?
It was, yeah.
Ka!
That was like a Burroughs doing a crow impersonation ca.
We've been talking for a while. Tuckered out. And if you want to support the show monetarily, pledge a couple of bucks over at patreon.com/pucksonnet. We're going to get
a couple of
euros. Whatever your currency is. Sure. To help support the show, cover some costs, pay for my Adobe Creative Cloud monthly membership now.
A couple of Ari. More than that. Those aren't worth much.
A couple million yen.
I'm not sure.
I don't know the currency.
Yeah.
What was that currency in the war? The German currency that just kept getting inflated because they just kept printing more money?
The German currency?
Is the mark?
Mark.
Yeah. Yeah. So, or then there was the new mark, I think. So a couple trillion mark. And if you don't, we've gotten a few more iTunes ratings and reviews, and that really helps the show. So we got 2 of those this week. So keep doing that if you haven't yet. And just tell a friend. Go like the social media. And Paul's going to say something juicy about Gary Bettman on 5 Minutes for Paying. Is that true?
Keep on rocking in the free world.
Doot-doot-loot-doot-doot-doo.
Well, you did the doot-doo. Okay.
Rock, move, get